Can you see me alright? Yeah. Okay. Hello everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is William Heath, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the albums, the musical concept. Feel free to tweet during this presentation, and you're also welcome to follow me at W_Heath. So let's get started by covering some of the issues involved. In terms of theatre, there's this conceived idea that it's on a decline or on a downward spiral, but this is simply not the case. In fact, the Society of London Theatre announced in January of this year that for the 8th year in a row, box office sales in the West End were at record levels, with revenues up 3.1% year on year and average attendance up 1.3%. In total, revenues reached over £500 million, which is a staggering amount. It is also important to note that London Theatre's contribution to the UK economy in 2011 was just over £88 million. Here in this graph, it shows the total attendances and attendance capacity by specific genre. Now I must point out that these figures are for 2010, as I could not find the results for 2011, but these are still very relevant. As you can see, musicals take up most of the majority share, and are by far the most popular, with just under 8.5 million attendances. In this pie chart on screen, which shows the total share of total attendance by genre again for 2010, musicals, as you can see, are the highest with a 59.5% share, compared to the likes of opera at 3.6% or plays at 26.2%. Adam Kenwright, the managing director of AKA, which is an international entertainment agency that markets some of the biggest West End shows, recently stated, these figures are a testament to the strength, quality and talent of London Theatre, and show that even in difficult financial times, millions of people are prepared to spend their hard-earned money on world-class entertainment. Mark Rubinstein, president of the Society of London Theatre, also recently said, the figures show the West End is very healthy and full of great shows that audiences are keen to see. These two quotes from theatre dignitaries sum up the current state of London Theatre and the West End. So it's safe to say overall that it's a very healthy state of affairs. I'm now going to go on to talk a little bit about intellectual property. Today's world is rife with piracy, and as we all know, the music industry is certainly no stranger to this. It's vital for every artist and musician to protect their intellectual property, but it's extremely difficult to do so. According to the IFPI's Digital Music Report in 2012, more than a quarter of internet users globally, which is 28%, access unauthorized services on a monthly basis. Although now governments and agencies are now fully catching up to the idea of targeting pirates, the recent mega upload case and the creation of bills such as SOPA and PIPA are just a few examples. During my research, I stumbled upon a figure that shows in 2011 that IFPI were able to secure the removal of 15 million infringing links, which is a 115% increase on 2010. However, more still needs to be done to protect music and for artists to protect their intellectual property. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this issue, as it's already been discussed a few times throughout this conference. But as you can see from this table, which shows the illegal download chart for both UK cities and the top artists illegally downloaded in 2011. London being the city with the highest number of illegal downloads, with Manchester second. And it's interesting to highlight that London was actually 3 times more prevalent than Manchester. In addition, for artists, you can see we have Adele at number 1, Jessie J number 2, Rihanna number 3, and for some reason Bruno Mars number 4. I don't want to get Bruno Mars like. These following 2 quotes I think are pretty fitting when concerning music piracy. Colombian singer-songwriter Shakira was recently quoted as saying, "To consume music legally protects and respects the work of every one of the people involved in the creation and its recording." And Yves Rizal, chief executive of Abil Music, also stated, "If piracy goes unchallenged, then every part of the music sector suffers." Let me now talk a little bit about the issue of music, and not to worry, this will all make a little bit of sense if you're wondering where I'm going with all this. It's no big secret that music album sales are declining. This line graph shows the decline in UK album sales from 2007 to 2011. And as you can see, the table underneath further breaks down the album sales. And though albums are declining, they still account for a 76.1% share compared to other formats such as vinyl LPs and digital downloads. Nowadays, it's vital for bands and artists to do more than just record an album and release it. In today's climate, it's all about interacting with the fans and giving them something a little bit different. There are many ways in which bands and artists can do this, and that brings me on to the albums to musical concept, which covers the 3 issues of theatre, music and intellectual property protection. Now, you might be wondering what exactly I'm talking about when I actually say albums to musicals, so let me explain. I'm sure most of you are all familiar with the band Green Day. Green Day is an American pop-punk / rock band, and in 2004 released their multi-platinum selling album American Idiot. American Idiot was a worldwide success, charting in 27 different countries and peaking at #1 in 19 of them. Since its release, American Idiot has sold over 14 million copies worldwide. In 2009, they debuted a musical stage production of American Idiot in the Berkeley Repertory Theatre, which became the top grossing show in the theatre's history. 1 year later, it was premiering on Broadway, with a UK and Ireland tour planned for autumn 2012, and the film adaptation currently in the works. Here are some facts and information on the musical itself. American Idiot is a one-act, three-sung stage musical, which means the music contains no spoken dialogue. Conversations and speeches are communicated musically through song. After 422 performances on Broadway, the show officially closed, followed quickly by the first national tour, a UK and Ireland tour planned for this year, and the second national US tour beginning in January 2013. To kickstart more life into the show and to add extra promotion, Green Day frontman Billy Joe Armstrong announced that he would play the role of St. Jimmy in the production. This immediately led to a huge demand for tickets, that saw ticket sales for the week he performed increase 77%. The success of the show saw the production win 2 Tony Awards for Best Scenic Design of a Musical and Best Lighting Design of a Musical. It also won a Grammy Award for Best Musical Show Album that saw both the band and cast perform live at the awards ceremony. This table also highlights some important information on the musical. There was 422 shows, with 26 of which were previews. Over 500,000 total attendance, just under $40 million in gross sales. The average paid admission was just under $78, and the average capacity was 66.7%. Now, it would have been helpful to actually find out how much Green Day actually made from the musical, but I could not find out this information. And as you can see, there's some quoted reviews from the show here. And from my research, I found that the reviews were generally positive. But as with every show production, there are some mixed and negative reviews. I'd just like to show you guys now a little video about the musical itself.
In 2004, Green Day released American Idiot and promptly revolutionized rock music. Hailed by Time magazine as a masterpiece, the album launched the band into superstardom, selling over 12 million copies and winning the Grammy for Rock Album of the Year. While on Broadway, Tony Award-winning director Michael Mayer was assembling one of the most innovative teams in the theater to join with Green Day and bring American Idiot to the stage.
The idea of theatricalizing this album came to me just from listening to it over and over again and hearing a very strong emotional narrative. There was this story of American youth looking to improve their lives, and I felt like that's just such a great coming-of-age story.
I was able to hear a really intense, beautiful story right away. There's so much here that feels like it's new and fresh and pushing the boundaries, that I think that when all is said and done, American Idiot is going to have a very important place in this rich art form of musical theater.
Don't wanna be an American Idiot. The stage version of American Idiot had its world premiere at Berkeley Rep in September 2009. After 2 extensions and 1 record-breaking run later, the move to Broadway was inevitable.
I play the character of Johnny, aka the Jesus of Suburbia. I kind of lead my friends into this catharsis of there's got to be something else out there. I don't know what it is, but this just can't be all there is.
I think immediately in the first time that you see our characters meet, there's this very quick kind of like, there's something about you that does something to me. And he shows her almost like a sweet gesture to her that is funny to her, makes her laugh and makes her feel warm and less empty and less alone.
We've always thought that somehow there should be some sort of stage version, because that's what we were thinking in our heads. You know, the musical arrangements that Tom Kitt did, you know, I mean, it's amazing. And their energy is just, it's just inspiring.
American Idiot, now playing at the St. James Theatre. For tickets, visit telecharge.com.
Okay, I'm not going to go on to talk a little bit about the concept itself. It's important, however, to determine that I'm not particularly talking about rock musicals such as Queen's We Will Rock You or Mamma Mia, for instance, but they are of course relevant and tie in with this idea. What I am talking about is the idea of albums making the jump to the stage. This all stems from the rock opera or concept album format, which is simply put a work of rock music that presents a dramatic story told over multiple songs in the traditional manner of opera. The songs are usually presented in the form of a record album unified by a common theme or narrative. Some early examples of rock operas include Tommy by The Who, The Kinks' Arthur or the Decline and Fall of the British Empire, or David Bowie's The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and The Spiders from Mars. There are other genre versions of rock operas such as hip operas, rap operas, punk rock operas and metal operas, for example. Very wordy that. I'm not going to look at some potential albums and artists that incorporate the rock opera or hip opera format that could ultimately follow in Green Day's footsteps. Here, for example, you can see albums such as My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade, Coldplay's Milo Xyloto. Green Day's follow-up to American Idiot was 21st Century Breakdown, which essentially adopted like the same format and potentially could make the jump to the stage also. In terms of rap operas, there's R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet series, Plan B's The Definition of Strickland Banks, or A Grand and Come for Free by The Streets. I've also mentioned Paul's Boutique by the Beastie Boys, which would be a glowing tribute to founding member MCA, who just recently passed away. In 2007, it was announced that the album Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots from American rockers The Flaming Lips would also be made into a Broadway musical by Aaron Sorkin, who created The West Wing and also wrote the movie The Social Network. It was recently announced that the show will receive its world premiere at the Jolla Playhouse in November 2012. Moreover, it will be very interesting to see how the production performs, and if you've read the quote there on screen from Flaming Lips member Wayne Coyne, then it'll make a pretty weird show to say the least. I'd like to cover some of the pros and advantages that this particular concept offers. For one, it provides another type of income stream and in some ways an alternative method of income for bands and artists. For instance, a band or artist could quite happily be on tour while their musical is also performing on a completely different stage. Bands would hopefully be making money through both ventures. The concept could offer greater promotion, enhancing the artist on the scene, stance on the scene, and gaining more publicity, which in turn could strengthen record sales and merchandise. Something I've mentioned before, but is also would be providing fans of artists something a little bit different. Personally, for me, I'm not a fan of musicals, and I'm not exactly a big Green Day fan, but I would like to see that musical simply through curiosity, and it is different and quite out there. And think of the excitement and the buzz that this type of format could generate within a band or artist fan base. This could also be a way to combine audiences of both music and theatre, much like I'm sure Queen's Will Rock You has achieved. There's also the potential to gain new fans, say for instance, fans of theatre and musicals, who may not have been fans of the music before. And finally, this concept is a way to protect and maybe even exploit a band or artist's intellectual property. There's no way of parodying this, much like a theatre show, it's all about there and then. It's about seeing it, the experience of seeing it there and then live on stage. Sorry. So let me just talk about the cons and some disadvantages that this could conjure up. For one, it takes funding and finance to produce the show. With many bands struggling to survive as it is, this may seem a step too far. For Green Day's American Idiot Broadway musical, it was rumoured to have cost between $8 and $10 million to produce. It also takes a lot of effort and commitment from various parties to get this concept underway and to see it the whole way through to the end, from start to finish. It may also be very time consuming, and gaining and maintaining interest in the concept is also very vital. Like in the same way of American Idiot, ticket sales and public interest began to diminish. That's why the frontman Billy Joe Armstrong joined the cast, which ultimately reignited the fire, so to speak. And finally, there may be some fan backlash towards this sort of concept. It's difficult to predict, but some fans may see this as a form of selling out, which ultimately could damage the band's reputation. So, what does this all mean for us as arts managers? Well, it's encouraging our artists to try something different, not being afraid of trying something new and sticking to the same old processes. It's about not being afraid to take new steps into alternative concepts. It's about thinking outside the box for new ideas and for new income streams. It's looking to the future for alternative models and formats for live entertainment. It's about looking after our artists' best interests. Again, it's about protecting our artists' copyright and intellectual property. And finally, hopefully, it's about having fun and enjoying ourselves along the way. I'd just like to end here on a quote that I found from a theatre critic, Mark Shenton. He said, "There's an audience for all different types of theatre, not just the established classics or indeed new plays," which I find is very applicable to this concept and poses the question, why not? Thank you.
Questions for Will? Joanna?
Could you see the live performance and the musical theatre performance merging, given creating a hybrid, basically a mega hybrid between the two?
So Joanna's asked, can you see a sort of hybrid performance that is part live performance and part a musical? Can you see that sort of merging together to create a hybrid performance?
Yeah, of course, why not? I mean, like, if there's a demand for it and the fans want to see it, of course. Like Green Day, for example. At the Grammy Awards, the cast joined them on stage and kind of did, you know, like a combined performance. So if it works, then why not, you know?
No?
Could you see some artists purposely changing their writing style so that the albums that they write transfer to theatre more cohesively because they see that revenue stream?
Will musicians, will artists change their writing style to accommodate the possibility of this being exploited on the stage?
Well, I mean, like, if it does become quite popular, like the actual concept itself, then it potentially could. I mean, like, Green Day has said that when they wrote American Idiot, they weren't exactly writing for a musical, but during the writing process, they kind of thought, you know, this could make the step. And then when they wrote the follow-up album, they followed the same format. So yeah, it could probably happen.
Okay, Lauren?
If the production releases a cast soundtrack, do you think that that'll take away from their album sales? Like,
so does the cast soundtrack, the thing that comes out of the musical, does that detract from album sales? So are people going to make a choice in the market, one or the other?
It could do, but it also could work the other way. It could, you know, fans could buy both, and it could strengthen like the normal record sales. So yeah.
Sarah, did you?
I was like, do you think fans and who are like artists run the risk of losing street cred if they're associated with music or other things?
Is there a danger of losing street cred if you're associated with the jazz hands of musicals?
It could do, like I mentioned in like my disadvantages, it could cause some fan backlash and they could see it as a form of selling out. But I mean, like, personally, I think it is a very interesting idea and it's, you know, something new. Like, it could work, but you never know.
Okay, so back Steve.
Do you think that this concept is taking away opportunities for new originals?
Is it taking away the space for new and original musical theatre to emerge? because we're building on back catalogues or we're building on current catalogues, but we're not getting the same sort of new, innovative musical?
Yeah, it could do. I mean, like I don't know how. I don't know, but it possibly could do. Yeah.
There was one more. Yeah, Ashley.
I don't obviously know much about musicals, but who actually funded these? Like, who funded the Green Day?
So the question is, how does a musical like this get funded? Who funded Green Day, for instance?
I'm pretty certain that Green Day funded it themselves because they are, you know, an established rock band. They've been around for like 20 plus years. But I mean, like, it is something that it would. I mean, like, smaller bands potentially could not make this happen. It is something for bigger bands to achieve. But you know, it could be worked with amateur productions as well.
And just generally speaking, if you're talking about musicals on that scale, they're normally big commercial things that pay for themselves, or they don't go on, frankly. So,
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cool.